Were you not quite ready for educating your child at home? Thrust into this a bit too quickly? Feeling overwhelmed? Not to worry, we've got you covered. Hello, I'm Samantha from Learning Success, and welcome to Educating at Home, an initiative by Learning Success to help you become the expert educator for your child. It may not feel like it, but research shows that parents can truly be the best educators. We'll be creating new videos every day to make sure you have the knowledge you need to rock this. Make sure to watch them all, and your child will be sure to get the best education possible. Today's video is from Drs. Kevin and Marlene Corsini. Dr. Kevin Corsini is the president of San Diego Christian College. He has consulted with some of the largest online education programs in America, has been an instructor online for over 10 years, and has helped to build one of the largest online schools in America with 94,000 students. Dr. Marlene Corsini holds a doctorate of education and has served as an associate dean in the College of Behavioral Sciences at Liberty University before relocating to San Diego. She has over a decade of experience in the online learning and higher education, both in teaching and instructional design. Marlene was homeschooled from K through 12 and is married to San Diego Christian College president, Dr. Kevin Corsini. Let's see what Drs. Kevin and Marlene Corsini have to say about educating at home.
Hello, I'm Dr. Kevin Corsini. I'm here joined with my wife today, Dr. Marlene Corsini. We'd like to talk to you a little bit about homeschooling, teaching your student at home. For many of us, this has been thrust on us unexpectedly, maybe against our will, not exactly what we wanted, and so now we're trying to navigate the frustrations and the challenges that this presents. We got 3 different tips we'd like to present to you that we think will help. My wife Marlene has a doctorate in education, but more importantly when it comes to this topic, she was actually homeschooled K through 12. So she can speak to us along the lines of a student, what her experience was like, as well as having a doctorate in education. Now, like I said, a number of you are frustrated, I'm sure. Hopefully you're having a good experience and just trying to figure this out as you go. You know, it seems if you've gone online at all and look, there's articles being written each and every day on how to make it a successful experience teaching your students from home. Oftentimes they focus on removing distractions, setting up a spot in the house that can be a focal point for learning, having the right technology, whether it's a camera or a microphone. But as we've read all of this, we think that there are a few things missing that really contribute to a good experience in homeschooling or learning from home. And so I wanted to ask you, well, what's one thing that you think isn't a part of the conversation right now that makes a huge difference?
Yeah, I think one area that could probably be emphasized quite a bit more is the emotional climate of your learning space.
Yeah, that's right. You know, parents, when they get frustrated, and I understand if you're feeling frustrated or get upset because it's not going the way that you wanted, that changes the emotional temperature in the home, right?
Right.
And so what happens is, if you start getting frustrated as a parent, it also has a tendency to upset a student because that emotion that you carry can be contagious to your child.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what happens in a learning environment, the way that we're wired, right? Learning takes place in what's called our prefrontal cortex, right? This is the thinking part of our brain, right up here, right? That's the thinking part. And when we become emotional, right? Frustrated or angry, right? We start moving into the feeling part of our brain, right? That's our limbic system that runs over here. And so when you have a lot of emotion engaged, like frustration and anger, right, it is disruptive. It's just not a good recipe for learning in the home. So as parents, right, as teachers, we need to monitor our emotions and the emotional climate of the house to ensure there's a healthy environment for learning.
Absolutely, yeah.
So what should we do? Like as a parent, I mean, you're going to get frustrated. What should a parent do if they're trying to teach their kid and they're getting frustrated?
Yeah, I know it can be so easy just to cave to that pressure of trying to accomplish the task, get to the goal of the day, just accomplishing the work. But we just really want to encourage you to not focus on so much on the task, focus more on the emotional state of the learning.
Yeah, it really should be both. There comes a point, you know, in school, growing up, when we were in school, recess was awesome. Recess was my favorite part of the day, honestly. Now, working at home, there's times that you need to give yourself a recess, right? If you find that you're getting frustrated and upset, it is so okay to take a step back and give yourself a recess and say, hey, we're going to take 5 minutes, right?
Absolutely.
So recognize that in yourself and recognize that in your students.
Mm-hmm.
The emotional climate of the home has a huge impact on how learning occurs for your student. So don't just be task driven, be relationally driven. Now, some of you might be hearing this thinking, well, if I do that, we're going to be taking a timeout or a recess break every 10 or 15 minutes. And maybe that's not the sort of structure you expected. For you, having grown up, how much structure does there need to be in a day for a homeschooling environment?
There certainly needs to be an amount of structure to be able to accomplish homeschooling. But at the same time, I would say not to be rigid in that. So think structure with flexibility. And I think that's just one of the beauties of homeschooling is you have that flexibility. You don't have a set session like you do in a school. You can take breaks as needed.
That's right. I love what you just said, structure with flexibility. In the school system, it's sort of a one-size-fits-all. Everybody goes to class, everybody sits in class for the same amount of time. The beauty of a homeschool environment is that you can tailor it to your students, right? You can look at your student and figure out, okay, how are they best wired, and tailor your day to the way that your student is wired, right?
Right. There's so many different personalities, and if you have multiple children that you are homeschooling right now, you can, I'm sure, understand just the differences that you are trying to navigate as you try to homeschool one child versus the other child. Can just be drastically different regarding just due to personality differences. And then when you also take into account just the different developmental levels, a 7-year-old is going to learn very differently than a 17-year-old and require a different amount of structure as well throughout the day. So if you are kind of doing the one-size-fits-all, all of your children are having the same sessions and breaks, that might not be the best fit because, again, your 7-year-old is going to learn very differently than your 17-year-old, for example. So we would just encourage taking into account those differences in just the developmental level.
That's right. So give yourself permission to tailor your day, tailor the learning environment to best fit you and your home. I mean, consider each of your kids and what works best for them, and give yourself that flexibility. And honestly, that potentially will help the emotional climate in the home also, because then you're taking some of that pressure off of yourself, you're taking some of the pressure off your kid, and hopefully it creates a more stable, calm environment for learning.
Right. And going back to just, again, taking that pressure off of yourself, again, being more relational than task focused as you think about the emotional climate. And as you're trying to balance that with structure, you may come across different areas where your child is really passionate about the topic. And in homeschooling, you have the flexibility to be able to just land there, spend a little more time there. And it's okay if you don't get as much done as you think you're going to that morning or that day. No worries, you'll catch up tomorrow. But just allowing that flexibility is so conducive for learning as your child is able to really dig into certain areas, and other areas you want to keep moving quickly by, and that's fine too. But just having that flexibility is just a real bonus.
And give yourself permission. If you don't get everything done in a day, that's okay. You've always got tomorrow, right?
Right.
So first off, monitor the emotional temperature of your home. That will make a huge difference in the learning environment. And then secondly, be flexible and tailor the learning environment to each of your students, right? Based on their developmental needs and just the way that they're wired. Now, the third thing I heard you reference 17-year-olds is, does a parent need to know everything that they're teaching? I know for me, if I had to teach a 17-year-old trigonometry, I'm sunk. I couldn't do it, right? I mean, to go back and try to remember that. But does a parent need to know everything that they're teaching?
Right. That can be very overwhelming. I know a lot of us have probably looked at some lesson plans and we just kind of thrown our hands up and said, we can't do this, which is understandable. Many of us have not seen this content for several decades since we were in grade school ourselves, and it can be really, really overwhelming. So we would just encourage you, again, not to stress it, not to put the pressure on yourself. You're just going to work through it with your student and really relearn the material.
That's right.
And that's okay.
Yeah, we call that parallel learning. Give yourself permission to learn the material with your student.
Right. Yeah.
You might not have seen this for 20 years. You'd be amazed if you're going back to something you've learned in the past, how quickly that comes back to you. If it's material you've never seen it before in your life, then give yourself permission to learn it alongside your student. And that can be a really great experience. That can be a bonding experience between you and your student. It could be that you actually are finding that your student is teaching you the material, right? And that can be great because they're going to learn it that much better if they're in a position where they're trying to teach you to get through to the finish line. But
Absolutely.
laugh with your student. Have fun with your student. Give yourself permission to tell your student, I don't know, I don't remember how to do this, but we're going to do it together, right? Great opportunity to grow close as a family. So what we want you to hear today is, you're in this homeschool environment, maybe it's for the first time, you're wondering, do I have to do this for 3 more weeks, 3 more months? At what point can my kid go back to school? Hey, I just want you to know, you can get through this. You can do this. But to do it successfully, remember 3 things. Monitor the emotional temperature of your home. Be flexible. Tailor the education to each of your students, just the unique way that they're wired. And third, give yourself permission, if you don't know everything, to enter into parallel learning and learn alongside your child. You do that, you're well on your way to having a successful and productive and hopefully an enjoyable experience learning from home. I want you to know you can get through this. You can do this successfully. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we hope that we'll all be back to the new normal very soon. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for those great tips. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to share it on social media. Use the hashtag EAH for Educating at Home. And remember, you've got this. The fact that you are here watching this video means you're an amazing parent. And that's a wonderful thing to be.